Okay, friends, hello and welcome. It's Mike Mutzel here. Thanks so much for tuning in to High Intensity Health on this live video. So first of all, just before we even get into struggling with keto adaptation and tips that I'm going to share with you, I want to wish you a happy holiday season. I know a lot of you are from the US and you've subscribed to this channel for a long time, and I'm grateful for your support. I'm grateful that you're here, for your comments, your likes, your shares. That really means a lot to me. And it's coming from Deanna and Sam as well. So Sam and I have been filming all day on the whiteboard. I have a bunch of new content for all of you coming, for our Keto Lean Masterclass members and our Patreon members. So if you want even more details than what you're getting for free on this channel, well, then tune in over there. Go to highintensityhealth.com/insider. But today we're going to talk about different ways that can help you with the fat burning process. You know, so many people, we are attracted to the ketogenic diet, right? Because it helps us burn fat for fuel, not only from our excessive, a lot of us have a little bit of extra body fat, but also from our diet. And we're going to talk about, you know, this is the first time I've done one of these whiteboard videos and my handwriting kind of sucks. I'm going to put my book down. But the liver, this is your liver, okay, just in case you guys are just tuning in, this is your liver. So ketone bodies and fat is being repackaged for, energy in our liver. And we're making two metabolites primarily. The one that a lot of you are very familiar with is BHB, stands for beta hydroxybutyrate, okay? I told you my handwriting is not so good. The other one that you're probably familiar with is called acetoacetate. Now, after learning from Dr. Stephen Phinney, the liver is making acetoacetate. And Sam, if there's any questions or whatever, just shoot them out. So guys, if you're just coming on, we're talking about different ways to help you fat adapt and keto adapt better. And we're gonna focus on the whole body, not just MCT oil and exogenous ketones. We're talking about liver health. I think this is a huge but often under-recognized aspect of nutritional ketosis that people don't recognize. Okay, so getting back to the story. In the context of when you're having a low carbohydrate diet, your insulin levels are low. Okay, here's the diagram, insulin levels are low. The brain, which is gonna be up here, I'm gonna draw in brown, the brain and muscle, okay? So the muscle is gonna be like this, little muscle belly. You guys know what a brain looks like. These organs need fuel, okay? So if there's no sugar around, what's gonna happen is there's gonna be messages sent to the liver to make these ketone metabolites. These ketone metabolites then are gonna, primarily it's been shown, that muscle tissue likes to use acetoacetate. Now, obviously beta hydroxybutyrate does fuel muscle contraction, but new research is coming out about acetoacetate, and the brain loves beta hydroxybutyrate, right? So anyway, but obviously there's a lot of crosstalk going on here, right? So when you're doing exercise, when you're fasted, your adipose tissue is going to release triglycerides and free fatty acids. Those are going to be repackaged as ketones because the brain needs beta hydroxybutyrate to operate on an energetic level when blood sugar is low, okay? So there's a lot of benefits too. This is kind of redundant stuff, but it's always good. We might have new listeners here, new viewers. We know that what attracted me to the ketogenic style diet is beta hydroxybutyrate has a lot of what we know to be called secondary signaling properties, okay? So beta hydroxybutyrate, this is gonna get messy. This is gonna get messy quick. This is what happens when you have been filming all day and you're excited about different things. So BHB downregulates this thing called the NLRP3, okay? So we talked about this about a year ago with Dr. Jong Ro. This inflammasome network turns on a lot of pro-inflammatory signaling pathways. That's one of the benefits that beta hydroxybutyrate offers in the body. Recent research has shown that BHB upregulates nuclear factor regulatory 2, so NRF2. This is a huge anti-inflammatory phase 2 detox and antioxidant signaling hub. So if you want to simultaneously downregulate a bunch of bad stuff and turn on a lot of good stuff, which by the way, NRF2 in and of itself turns down NFKB. So it's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and it upregulates phase 2 detox. So this is why the ketogenic diet is so attractive for a lot of people. And this is why so many people are so excited about the ketogenic diet. Sam, you just made a face. There must be a good or bad question.
No, this is great. You got 72 watchers already.
Awesome. Guys, if you're watching this and you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That just helps this message. So we're here. If you like this whiteboard stuff, leave a comment, leave your name, where you're from. If you're in North America and you're celebrating Thanksgiving, what are you eating? What's your favorite low carb dish? So back to the drawing board. The BHB, in contrast, glucose doesn't have a lot of these beneficial properties, right? Glucose, like if you're sprinting or if you have Epstein-Barr virus or you have cytomegalovirus, you have this chronic inflammation, you need sugar to fuel that. Outside of that, sugar doesn't have all these secondary beneficial properties, right? Ketones have they do a lot of really cool things. They also affect these HDACs, okay? HDAC. So this is a histone deacetylase inhibitor. So you may be familiar with this, but our DNA is very sensitive to damage. It can be tightly wound around these histone-like proteins, and the histone deacetylase inhibitors really affect the structure and affect gene signaling. So there's so many benefits to keto, and that's why people are so excited about the ketogenic diet. We haven't even yet talked about mitochondrial function. We haven't even talked about the fact that beta-hydroxybutyrate is so structurally similar to butyric acid made by your healthy gut bacteria, and that's another beneficial property. And by the way, if you hear background noise, that's my daughter Inez just running around playing with the dogs. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. So you can see why this is so exciting, and you can see why so many people, it's loud, sorry guys, why so many people are attracted to the ketogenic diet, and why so many people can get frustrated when they measure the ketone levels and they're not elevated. They're wondering what's going on. What am I doing wrong? Well, I like to get back to the basics with people and just talk about their lifestyle. You know, it would be amazing if it was just you eat a low carb, high fat diet and your liver just made ketones all day long and you didn't have to worry about fat tissue health, if you didn't have to worry about muscle health, if you didn't have to worry about sleep hygiene, you know, that would be nice. But really, the body's all interconnected. Guess what? Your fat tissue communicates with your liver. Your gut communicates with your liver. In fact, if you look at the developmental embryology and so forth, the liver and the intestinal tract are from the same origin from an embryological perspective. So they crosstalk and communicate. So first things first, if you're struggling to get into ketosis, we talk about this, guys, so much in our classes and our membership area, you gotta have really good liver health. So I recommend everyone do a little bit of a detox before they get onto a ketogenic style diet. And I just want to plug a friend of mine, Dr. David Jockers. He talks a lot about this. Before going keto, you want to kind of clean house a little bit. One of the things that Dr. Jockers taught me a long time ago is the number one thing that a lot of people kind of forget about ketosis is becoming constipated and how that can really kick you out of ketosis. So make sure to increase your salt intake. Super important stuff. A lot of people don't up their salt intake. They go low carb, they get constipated. Their gut's recirculating a lot of nasty chemicals and so forth, and then liver gets jammed up. So again, I'm oversimplifying the mechanisms here, saying the liver gets jammed up. There's more complex biology going on, but I know a lot of you aren't scientists, you just want to be healthier. But there's a lot of complexity here. So you want to know what's known as, again, I talk about this at length, your liver function test. So this is ALT, AST, and GGT. Okay, so these are enzymes that your liver makes in increased amounts when your liver has issues, when your liver is actually undergoing damage and there's low glutathione levels. Your liver is going to make enzymes, particularly GGT and ALT. So if these liver enzymes are elevated, is there some questions?
Oh yeah, there's some, well, let me know whenever you're ready.
Sure, okay, so we'll finish up the liver conversation, guys, and we'll get to your questions because I really want to thank you as part of Thanksgiving and the holiday spirit and stuff like that, and to share content, but also take your questions. So if your liver enzymes are elevated, you're gonna have a hard time keto adapting. So that's tip number one. Make sure that if your liver enzymes are very elevated, you have hepatitis C, you have fatty liver, you might want to go low carb paleo before just deep dive into a ketogenic style diet, because what happens is, again, in order to make ketones, you gotta have low blood glucose and low blood insulin. But check it out. Your liver's jammed up, you've dropped down your glucose, dropped down your insulin, the brain needs fuel. So what are you gonna do? You might faint. And I've had some clients where this has literally happened to, because we didn't really address the gut liver health at first, and they were just changing a lot of things, and they can feel lethargic and tired because the brain doesn't have energy. Okay, so remember, these ketones are alternative energy substrates really for brain and muscle health. And if we're not making these substrates because our liver is a little bit damaged, and we have low blood sugar low, we're just gonna have low energy in the system. It's like trying to go on vacation or to the mountains, and if your car has no gas and you have no backups and not a hybrid, right? You need gas, you need fuel. And ketones are just a fuel. They're an alternative fuel substrate. So we got some questions. Sam, what do we got?
Yeah. We got one from Davis AJ. He says, do calories matter if you do alternate day fasting?
Oh, good question. Yeah. So the fasting mimicry diet, alternate day fasting, I mean, all that stuff, it depends, right? Like if you're trying to build muscle, gain strength, I would say compress your feeding window. But if you're trying to alternate day fast, that's more of a weight loss management strategy. That's an anti-aging strategy. That's a strategy to improve blood sugar regulation, add some bowel rest to your GI tract. So, just because these things are burgeoning and the interest is there's a fasting mimicry diet, alternate day fasting, all this stuff, you really, and Sam and I will attest to this, one of the first videos I made is start with the end in mind. Okay, so what is your goal on doing all these dietary and lifestyle changes? If your goal is just because everyone else is seemingly doing it, that's not a good goal, right? So alternate day fasting for cancer purposes, for diabetes reversal and affecting blood sugar metabolism, for weight loss and specifically fat loss. But one of the best organs to help you lose fat, slow down the aging process, decrease inflammation is muscle tissue. And you need to have stimulus from exercise and nutrition to help your muscle tissue. Check out the podcast with Dr. Gabrielle Line. We got a great show coming up with the Mind Pump guys, Adam and Sal. We talk all about muscle tissue. So I think listen to your body, okay? And what I mean by that is if you want to do an alternate day fast, on days that you feel you're not doing a whole lot of activity or you overate, this is great. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. A lot of people are going to overeat. Friday would not be a bad day to fast. That would be a great thing. Feast and famine. Feast and famine is kind of that natural progression. So that would be like a context and environment, where you're doing that. So that's what I would suggest. Start with the end in mind. What are your goals? Keep muscle health in mind, and then just use it naturally in your diet and your lifestyle. So good question.
Another one. Love to be random says, can eating too many non-starchy veggies prevent you from ketosis?
Yeah.
She says he says, I have about 15 cups a day.
15 cups a day? Wow, that sounds like a lot. Well, look, we just filmed a lot of videos, guys. I'm huge on fermented foods and gut health and stuff like that. But 15 cups a day is quite a bit. What I would do is, whoever asked that question, go back to the study. We did a review on the Pure study. So you need about 5 to 7 servings of vegetables per day. 15 cups, if you're switching from 15 hamburgers to 15 cups of vegetables, awesome, right? But if you hear that vegetables are good, so you're having 15 cups, it seems like that's a lot of just material for your GI tract to ferment and digest and things like that. Not that that's bad. We're entering this era of precision and personalized medicine. So do what works for you. But you're gonna know if that's affecting your body by testing your BG. So that's blood glucose. So is your blood glucose maintaining? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Are there a lot of peaks and troughs and stuff like that? Look at things like the heart rate variability using the Oura Ring. How is your sleep? How is your muscle tissue? And are you burning fat for fuel? Do your pants feel a little bit looser, like you're burning fat, or are you stuffed and bloated? So these are all things to ask yourself. I can't say you need 12.5 cups or 15 cups. You need to figure out what really works for you. But in general, we don't worry so much about the carbohydrates if they're coming from vegetables that are non-starchy.
You're just getting a ton of feedback, a lot of good stuff.
Awesome, thanks guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on. Nancy B says, it's a good question, can you recommend how much salt? I did the salt before while doing this diet, and still my electrolytes were so out of whack, so thirsty.
Yeah.
And I slept like crap.
Yeah, good question. So how much salt? I love that question. So it's about 4 grams per day. Oh my gosh, is that a G? Told you guys my handwriting kind of sucks. So around 4 grams per day. And this is a lot of research. Definitely, other people will say 12 grams. Some people say 2. I've talked to a lot of different experts on this, including Dr. James DiNicolantonio. Definitely check that interview out. Just type in Dr. James Salt Fix in YouTube. We got a great interview with him. I was just catching up with Dr. Stephen Finney. So around 4 to 4.5 grams of salt per day. Now, I love this question because it goes back to gut health. And remember, the gut is so important for liver health. Liver health is important for gut health. There's crosstalk, and you need liver health to make ketones, right? So if you're not having enough salt and you get constipated, going back to what Dr. Dave Jockers was talking about, and in the video we did almost 2 years ago now, if you don't have this much salt, guess what? The bowels stop moving. When the bowels stop moving, you're recirculating a lot of crap. Literally a lot of crap from, what you should be detoxifying and so forth. So you want to make sure you're getting enough salt in your diet. That's absolutely essential. So I definitely appreciate that question.
Cool. So we got one that says, could keto cause hair loss? I'm 19, and since I started the diet, I've been losing hair like crazy.
Good question. Hey, it looks like the battery light's blinking.
We got a good 22 minutes.
Oh, we got 22 minutes. Okay, well, I just stopped blinking. So good question. So at 22 years old, hair loss. So there's a couple things when it comes to hair loss. And, it comes to nutrition. We talk about anemias. We talk about iodine and thyroid health. And then we talk about dihydrotestosterone. So I'm not going to make a bunch of diagrams here. But at 22 years old, what I would say is look on your maternal side and see if your uncles, your mom's brother and stuff like that, your mom's father, your grandfather on your maternal side, how is their hair pattern? If they have a full head of hair, and you just started keto, then maybe it's not related to dihydrotestosterone. It could be your thyroid. It could be anemias. So those are the two things that we'd also want to consider. So one way that you can test this is I love the Dutch test, the dry urinary total comprehensive hormone panel. I think is the acronym what it stands for. But that will help you to better ascertain, is it dihydrotestosterone, is it cortisol, so is it stress, and so forth, and you want to rule that out. If you're hypothyroid, you'll start to lose the lateral portion of your eyebrow as well. So you'll want to look into that. So do an advanced thyroid hormone test, look at reverse T3, free T3, thyroid binding globulin, antibodies, and the whole kit and caboodle. And then the last thing, you want to look at dihydrotestosterone. But will a keto diet just cause hair loss? Probably not. In and of itself, look again on your maternal side and so forth. So that's a really good question. Last but not least, you want to look at your ferritin, your iron, your total iron binding capacity, to see if you have a functional anemia that could be affecting your hair loss.
All right.
Awesome.
And someone wanted you to repeat the question because they can hear my voice.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the question was a 22-year-old was on a ketogenic diet and then had some hair loss, and they wanted to know if there was a correlation there. Now, as a mentor of mine, Dr. Gerard Guillory would say, when it comes to side effects of various pharmaceuticals, everything is considered a side effect until proven otherwise. And I would say, think about that with your lifestyle and diet. Everything could be considered a potential side effect until you kind of rule it out, right? So, but you want to look at the whole picture, having more healthy fats, nuts, seeds, tiger nuts and everything else, is that going to accelerate your hair loss? Probably not. So it's most likely hormones or something else in your environment, but you never know. So everyone's unique.
Awesome. Amy H says, how would biotoxin exposure, parentheses mold, impede keto adaptation?
I love this question. So the question was, how would mold or biotoxin illness affect keto adaptation? Love this question because remember, a prerequisite to get into ketosis is low insulin, and inflammation, is going to affect insulin signaling. Inflammation is also, we just literally made a bunch of videos for our members on this exact topic. So what I would say, Amy, in short, not to promote all this stuff, but in my book, Belly Fat Effect 1495, you'll learn exactly the connection between inflammation and blood sugar and insulin and keto adaptation. So inflammation of any kind is going to affect fat burning. So when you're inflamed, you have mold and biotoxin illness, the body's going to repartition energy. It's going to allocate more energy and more resources towards glycolytic type pathways, raising blood sugar. Here's a really good example, When individuals, the third or fourth degree burns across their entire body, they looked at their insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance scores. A year after those burns, they were still more insulin resistant compared to baseline. So any inflammatory stimulus is going to cause us to be insulin resistant. Remember, to be insulin sensitive, to make ketones, we need to be insulin sensitive. We need low levels of insulin. So to answer your question specifically, it will definitely impact mold, biotoxins, inflammation, chronic infections. Those are definitely going to impact keto adaptation and fat burning, right? And so we see, Dr. Joe Carnahan and I talked about this years ago in a podcast, that weight gain was a huge side effect of mold and biotoxin exposure. Okay, it's not for every single client, but she said that was one of the first things that she sees, right? So the body, when it's inflamed, is reallocating energy-rich fuels, mostly glucose. So keep that in mind. So that's why it's like there's a lot of ways that a lot of things maybe potentially that can go against you for keto adaptation. That's what it's a lifestyle. It's not just like, oh, as simple as changing your diet. It's way more, I don't want to say complicated. There's more going on to the story because everything affects your liver and inflammation. So, good question.
Awesome. So we got a question that says, what is a target blood sugar when in ketosis? And repeat the question.
Yeah, so good question came in and like, what's the best blood sugar, when you're in ketosis? So, I'd say around 4 millimolar or 80 nanograms per ml. So depending upon where you live in the world, if you're used to millimolar, around 4, 4.5, or 80. So now, this really kind of depends on pre-meal and post-meal. Post-meal, you don't really want to be going over like 5.5 millimolar or 100 or 110 on the blood glucose. So if your blood glucose is having big peaks and troughs, that means insulin is being released. We know that insulin suppresses ketogenesis, right? And so this is actually why it ties into another really, really good question about hormones. And so, anyway, to answer your question specifically, pundits will agree to disagree on the exact numbers, but the closer you can get to 80 or 4 millimolars, kind of the better, okay? Now, and since we're talking about insulin and ketogenesis and ketone formation, I would love for you to kind of think about two hormones. We talked about inflammation. Talked about sleep, we talked about exercise. Hormones have a huge impact on the synthesis and production of ketones in the body. So we know that men keto adapt a little bit better than women. Why? Because they have higher levels of androgens. Androgens are ketogenic. So just keep that in mind. If you have a lot of estrogen dominance, you have a lot of adipose tissue, fat tissue makes estrogen. Fat tissue actually has an enzyme that will take testosterone and convert it to estrogen called aromatase. So this is why I talk about a lot in the book, belly fat effect. Too much, particularly belly fat, can lead to hormone issues. And it's like adding insult to injury because when you have hormone dysfunction, then you can't really burn the fat that you want to. But I'm rambling. So Sam, what do we got there?
All right, we got one from Hoda T. And the question is there a test we can take to find what deficiencies we have so that we can address these on keto or in general?
Yeah, really good question. So the question was about like a test in general to see about maybe nutritional deficiencies and blood work. You know what? Actually, in January, we're doing a course all about this. So it's going to be, check out our insider area. Make sure that you're on our email list because every January, I recommend all my clients and I myself do lab work. We're going to go through it all together, talk about the tests that you should do, and we're going to interpret it together and learn from each other and grow and see how we can change these biomarkers, right? So, but to answer your question, what tests would I recommend? Well, a comprehensive blood chemistry panel that includes your liver function tests, that includes hemoglobin, hematocrit, red blood cell counts, let's see what else, iron, total iron binding capacity. Most doctors, based upon insurance coverages and what they get paid and all this, they do very not comprehensive blood work. So you want to find a doctor in your area that does practices functional integrative medicine and tell them you want a very comprehensive blood panel that will look at gut, liver, kidney, thyroid, and other serum markers, hormones, to look at this stuff. And then there's obviously the NutriVal. There's organic acid testing that can look at micronutrients as well. So great question though.
Great. So we got two that's kind of similar. Can Mike quickly sum up salt and sodium, the difference, distinguish between that? And so there's someone named Nancy B who also goes and says, is 4 grams of salt or is it 4 grams of sodium?
Yeah, good question. So what's the difference between sodium and salt? And then when I'm saying 4 grams, so when we talk about salt in the diet, so it's like this would be the same thing. So salt, sodium, salt, these are interchangeable words, right? So don't get hung up on that. And we're talking about 4 grams of salt or sodium per day. Usually sodium is listed on nutritional labels and things like that of packaged food because they add in various sodium and sodium-like compounds, MSG, and other things. So what we want to get is an unrefined table salt, around 4 grams per day. Okay. Now, look, if you have congestive heart failure, if you're on diuretics, if you have edema, you might want to always talk with your doctor, okay, on this one. But also get the book by Dr. James D. Nicolantonio, or watch the podcast at least. Just search on YouTube, James D. Nicolantonio. I believe the book is Salt Fix. We had him on the podcast. He shared all the research and stuff. I think his book has like 1,000 references. So anyway, that's that one. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah. I got one from Charles. He says, will increasing my salt intake affect my blood pressure and water retention?
Yeah, good question. So does upregulating your salt intake, does that affect blood pressure and water retention? So back to, you got to listen to the podcast with Dr. James. He talks all about the mechanisms and stuff like that, and how low salt, my daughter's yelling, how low salt can affect edema and water retention and blood pressure. So check that out. But again, what we're promoting here is not just that you upregulate your salt intake and that's the only thing we do. We suggest exercise. We suggest moving your muscles. We suggest meditation. We suggest cold thermogenesis, getting 8 hours of sleep, meditating, like constantly moving, getting 20,000 steps a day. It's not just like doing one little thing, right? So I like that you guys are trying to get specific here, but you want to think about the forest, not the trees, okay? Think about the big picture and all the moving parts and the inner networking there.
Awesome. We got a question from Super Tap. And it says, been doing keto for 7 months now, been gassing out a bit early when mountain biking. Any advice to keep fueled for energy?
Awesome. So the question was from someone who's a mountain biker. I'm a cyclist myself, so I can resonate and identify with that. You know what? I would suggest, mountain biking, it can be glycolytic. There's undulating surfaces where you're doing some glycolytic or sprinting or hills. So I would suggest, look, man, you can be mostly keto, or man or woman, sorry, person, you can be mostly keto and carb cycle. It's not going to hurt you. When you become fat adapted and when you're exercising, particularly if you're an athlete, you're naturally making ketones for fuel. And when you throw in a little bit of carbohydrates, it's like adding rocket fuel to your muscle tissue, okay? So we don't want to be dogmatic about this. Like, if our activity that we get a lot of pleasure from, that we get into a flow state from, we want to perform well in that activity, right? Imagine getting smoked by all your friends and they're looking at you going, dude, I thought this keto thing was good for you. It's like, well, it is, but when you're doing road biking or something or mountain biking where there's undulating surfaces, add in some carbohydrates. Don't be afraid to pack a banana in your backpack. Remember, you are fat adapted. Just by being an athlete, if you train hard, your liver's ability to make ketones upon demand is upregulated. So having some carbohydrates is not going to totally wreck you, especially if you're having it while you're exercising.
Awesome. Randy Lundell says, how many grams of fat should you consume in a day to stay in ketosis?
Yeah, Randy. So it totally depends. It's like how much money do you need when you retire? It's how much money are you spending? What's your income like? What kind of lifestyle you want when you retire? So it really depends on the person. It depends on your body weight. Is there one magic number? There's not. So some people will say, you need 120 grams of fat per day. Some people will say 150 grams of fat per day. We're entering, as you know, Randy, this era of precision personalized medicine. What works for someone may not work for them. They might have single nucleotide polymorphisms within their liver that ketones aren't made as readily, so they might need even more dietary fat. So it just depends. You don't know until you start testing. Okay, so you're testing your BG, your blood glucose, so that right? Is your blood glucose low? Do you have energy? Okay. Once you master your blood glucose, then start testing your blood ketones, and then you can kind of see. But I would suggest, Randy, take a record of what you're eating now that's not keto. Just get an idea. Just take 4 or 5 days, figure out what you're eating now, what your calorie intake is now, what your body weight is now, free fat mass and free muscle mass, and then start tweaking from there. So if you're happy with your body composition, you want to go keto for the brain benefits, etc., then you can kind of start swapping out carbohydrates for fat and just seeing how things go. But again, not every day is going to be the same. On days that you're inactive, you're not going to eat as much on days that you're active, right? So if I just say, yeah, it's 120 grams per day, then you're fixated on that and you're going to overeat and create this this lack of connection with food, and our satiety signals are already as messed up as it is. So trying to strive for arbitrary macronutrient targets is not a good thing. Unless you're getting paid to be a bodybuilder, I don't recommend doing it.
Awesome. You got tons of positive feedback on the whiteboard, by the way.
Oh, people are digging it?
Yeah,
Dude, if you guys like it, please. All right, I'm going to do more of this. It's my Christmas present. I'm going to tell Deanna when she gets home, Deanna, this is my daughter's whiteboard, but this isn't like we went out and bought this. I was like, oh shit, we need a whiteboard. Oh, my daughter has one. I mean, it has all these little thingies on it. So
Yeah.
I love it that you guys like the whiteboard.
And you got a question from Bobby, and make sure to repeat the question. It says, what would you recommend to the person who reduces carbs to 20 grams a day or less and still can't get into ketosis?
Love the question. So the question was, I've dropped my carbs down to less than 20 grams per day and I still can't get into ketosis. Well, first thing you need to figure out, well, I would say you need to sign up for our masterclass because we walk you through all the stuff. We have a private Facebook group because it could take months to figure it out. Remember, you have environmental toxins affecting liver. You have hormones affecting liver. You have insulin. You have inflammation, all this stuff. You have genetics. You have single nucleotide polymorphism. You have environmental toxins. All these things affect your liver, affect your liver's ability to synthesize and make ketones. And that's contingent upon blood sugar being low. So we need to look at your lifestyle. Missing just a few nights sleep or having social jet lag, meaning you go to bed at like 10 p.m. one day and then 1 a.m. the next day, guess what? That's going to affect insulin, right? So that's going to affect your liver's health and your circadian rhythm. So, there's a lot of things that you need to think about. I'm not trying to overcomplicate it and scare you away. This is a journey of discovery. As a mentor of mine, Brian Blackburn, CEO and founder of Zymogen, exclusive professional formulas, would say, the journey is the reward. Figuring this stuff, like I'm constantly tinkering and testing. I first got introduced to a ketogenic diet in 2002, but I'm constantly trying to figure things out, improve my gut health, instead of relying upon like olive oil, eating more olives, just things like that, having more ferments, right? So anyway, I don't know the answer. You might not know the answer. It could take you 6 months to figure it out, but stay with the process, exercise, get good sleep, make sure that you're moving, doing abdominal movements, because just, hypoxia within the fat cells within the gut can affect all this stuff. And, for $47, you can get access to our e-course that has tons of videos, recipe guides, and our private Facebook group where we do these kind of things more often. Good question, though. Let's take two more.
Yeah, and we're on 8 minutes.
Cool.
Okay, we got a question from Matt Gizzle. It says, does sodium need decline as you become fat adapted? I was pretty fat adapted before keto and I don't seem to need much sodium.
Good question. So the question was, as you become more and more fat or keto adapted, does your requirements for sodium decrease? And the answer is no. You still need high levels of sodium. In fact, probably more. So Dr. James Denick talks about how insulin affects the kidney. Kidney is kind of behind here, right? How insulin affects the kidney and the release of sodium. So you're excreting more. And Dr. Stephen Finney talks about how prostaglandins from the diet, healthy fats and so forth, affect sodium retention and release too. So your sodium levels don't really, your needs become more important when you keto adapt. So I would say just, you look at your lab work. Are you getting muscle cramps? Are you having regular bowel movements? Are you having any signs of being depleted from electrolytes? And if you don't, then maybe it's working for you. But if not, particularly if you exercise your muscle tissue, if you go in the sauna, like we recommend to all our members due to all the benefits for that, you want to keep your salt intake high. Salt is, especially unrefined Celtic sea salt, is rich in minerals. It's good stuff. So hopefully that helps.
Awesome. Last question?
Last one.
Last question is from David. Says, what are your thoughts on low carb, high fiber cereals? I have one that gives 24 grams of carbs, but 13 grams of fiber per 1/2 cup serving.
Yeah, so great question, David. So the question, if you guys can't hear, was about a low carb, high fiber type cereals. Should you use them or not? Well, I'm generally not a fan of cereals. Why? Because cereals are it's processed food, guys. It's a lot of it, even if it's grain-free, the carbohydrates, even though it says high fiber, are going to be fast-acting in general because they're processed and refined so they can get into a fancy cereal. They're going to be fast-acting. Guess what? That's going to affect insulin and that's going to suppress your liver's ability to synthesize ketones. Now, if you are worried about fiber because you don't like vegetables, where you don't eat enough vegetables, that's another thing. But I can think of a lot of beneficial foods, including fermented foods and everything else, where you can get good sources of fiber from real, unprocessed, microbiome-rich foods instead of grains and things like that. So, not to burst your bubble, but I won't condone that, okay? But like I said, if it works for you, fine. But the questions you need to ask yourself: are you losing fat? Are your blood glucose improving? Are you gaining more muscle mass? Is your brain health getting better? Are you having deeper sleep? If you're not, you gotta change something up. So in closing, friends, I'm just so grateful that you're with us. This last 3-year journey on YouTube has been awesome. It's been really as rewarding for me as it hopefully has been for you. We're gonna just keep ramping things up. Sam and I are filming on a more consistent, regular basis now, which is awesome. For those of you guys that want a little bit more juice, want more details, want more shortcuts and save you time, that's why we create these videos on this channel, but also in our private members area. Not only does that help you better, but guess what? That helps support our channel too. So if you want to just kick us a few bucks a month, $3 to $4 a month, we can travel more and film more and get more interviews out there to you. So go to highintensityhealth.com/insider. You can become a member there. And that's where you get more access to me and we can ask questions. If you want to learn a little bit more about the book, Belly Fat Effect, got a new one coming up soon, but there's a lot of juice in here that you might like. And, the fall, the winter is a great time to go keto. And so that's why we're relaunching our Keto Lean Masterclass. Got a bunch of new videos, a lot of new content. That link's gonna be like right here in the YouTube, what do you call it, a card? Yeah, click that link. I think you'll dig it, guys. But if you live in North America, particularly US, and you're celebrating Thanksgiving, hope it's an awesome time with friends and family. Unplug a little bit, tune out, enjoy the food, get back to your regular grind with nutrition on Friday and Monday. So we'll catch up with you soon, guys. Hope you have a good one. Thanks so much.